Hello and welcome to the Low Carbon Travel and Transport Challenge Fund Round 3 webinar. I'm Rachel Goulding and I'm the Challenge Fund Service Manager. In this webinar, we'll run through the application form for Round 3 of the Low Carbon Travel and Transport Challenge Fund, which we will refer to from this going forward as LCTT Challenge Fund. We will highlight areas of the application that are scored and areas that are critical for the projects to meet eligibility of the funding. For more information about the Challenge Fund, we have guidance notes and notes for applicants on the website. There's also a section of frequently asked questions, which we update periodically when we have new questions that people ask that would be relevant for everyone. What is the fund for? Under Round 3, the LCTT Challenge Fund will provide 8.43 million for active travel hubs and/or low carbon transport hubs, or an integrated approach to both. You can also have path projects, which can be standalone path projects or path projects associated with hubs. Hubs don't necessarily need to be based in a single location, although it will be essential for them to be complementing any existing infrastructure, and that they are located at a convenient, safe and accessible site in order to maximise use, impact and outcomes. There is no fixed definition of a hub, so there is scope for creativity in designing the hubs. Though you can refer to page 20 of the guidance for applicants for Round 3, available on the LCTT website, if you wish to have direction on ideas behind hubs and their locations. On the LCTT website, we also have descriptions of past projects that have been funded. Round 3 of the LCTT Challenge Fund will consider paths-only applications, provided they can demonstrate that the path works as sufficient in scale and strategic importance, supporting everyday functional trips. Paths can also form part of the hub projects. The ERDF investment can support proposals which will create new, open up, upgrade, or reimagine paths that will increase active travel opportunities and public transport usage. For more information, we have a guidance note for paths on the LCTT website. The LCTT Challenge Fund is predominantly a capital fund to meet costs of building hubs or paths, although some elements of revenue expenditure is allowable until project completion, such as staff costs, outreach and evaluation activities. For this presentation, we'll follow the application form. If you wish to refer to notes for applicants' documents, you'll be able to follow the presentation section by section. You can download this from the website. To get a copy of the application form, please complete an expression of interest and send it to lctt@est.org.uk. You will get a project reference number, an application form, and a financial information spreadsheet to return. An EOI template is available on the website and for download. Please note that throughout the remainder of the LCTT programme, Transport Scotland will be looking at the future of current Scottish ERDF programmes and other Transport Scotland and Scottish Government initiatives. So if your project proposal supports the overarching aims of the LCT Challenge Fund, please do feel free to submit an expression of interest. Even if your project is out with the Round 3 delivery timescales or does not represent a clean fit with the eligibility criteria, and select the future funding box, this will help inform development for future funding opportunities. So the first section of the application form is the self-assessment checklist. This is designed to help you assess your eligibility. You must answer yes to all these questions in order to be eligible to apply. Section 2, after ensuring that the project meets all the eligibility requirements, applicants need to fill in details of their organisation and project lead contact. Applicants will have to declare any known conflicts of interest. If your projects are working in partnership, you will have to identify a lead applicant. Applicants need to describe any partnerships in place for the delivery of the project. They will be asked to detail any partners, their roles and funding contributions. Lead applicants will be responsible for the project partner and ensuring the organisation complies with the European Regional Development Fund rules and regulations and the national rules, particularly the procurement process. Lead applicants and partners should, at minimum, have a service level agreement in place. Applicants can submit more than one application. If you're submitting 2 or more applications, you must rank them in order of priority. Moving on from the applicant's details, the next section of the application form focuses on the project. Section 3.1 asks to specify the project's administrative details, which are the title of the project, which will be used throughout the award process, your project reference number, which will be issued to you by the Energy Saving Trust when you register your interest in applying. The rest of the section is straightforward. Type of hub, so active travel or low carbon, or if it's a path proposal, include the kilometres of path you intend to create. Whether your area is lowlands and uplands or highlands and islands. If you're in doubt of where you are, please contact us. The project start date, expenditure is not eligible before signing the grant offer letters. Grant offer letters are expected to be issued around March or April 2020. Project end date, activities must be completed by September 2022 and expenditure defrayed by December 2022. In section 3.2, we ask for a project summary. Please keep this brief. Imagine that you're describing your project for a press release. Focus on the main aims, describe the hub's location, past location, if relevant, and don't forget to attach maps to show these locations. Applicants can expand on what they've wrote in the summary throughout the following sections, which include a detailed project description, a list of project deliverables, including specifications and details as far as possible. Project viability, if you have completed a feasibility study, consultation, or stakeholder engagement, we ask you to provide an outline of this work. Wider project, if your wider project includes elements that are not ERDF eligible, projects that are going on that this will complement. Completing the project details section comprehensively will help when drawing out concise details from section 5, the impact criteria. Everything in section 3 will contribute to the overall score of the project. The finance section, compared to round 2, the funding rates for round 3 remain the same for projects with total eligible costs up to 2 million. The minimum match funding requirements for applicants is 20% of total eligible project costs for projects based in highlands and islands and 30% for projects based in lowlands and uplands. This will be possible because both ERDF funding and also support from Transport Scotland is available. Applicants will not need to distinguish between the funds requested from Transport Scotland and funds requested from ERDF in your application. This separation will be calculated after the scoring and assessment process. The maximum ERDF intervention rate is 70% in highlands and islands and 40% in lowlands and uplands. In addition, TS have made budget available to support applicants' match funding needs. This allows to lower the match funding requirements for applicants to a minimum of 20% in highlands and islands and 30% in lowlands and uplands. Please note that these are minimum thresholds. As ERDF funds are intended to be funding of last resort, should there be sufficient funds available through both the applicant's own match funding contribution and that available from Transport Scotland funds, both these sources will be used in the first instance to offset the need to draw down on available ERDF funds. Please note that the Transport Scotland match funding support is only available as a proportion of up to 2 million project costs per applicant. This means in the case of bigger projects with total eligible project costs over 2 million, the project's own external match funding requirements for the portion of costs exceeding 2 million will be 30% for projects based in highlands and islands or 60% projects based in lowlands and uplands. To explain this further, here we have a table with an example. So for example, an organisation who submits a project proposal for activities based in the highlands and islands with total eligible project costs of 5 million If the applicant demonstrates that all other funding sources have been exhausted, they can apply for Transport Scotland match funding support and ERDF funding. Transport Scotland maximum availability level in Highlands and Islands corresponds to 10% of eligible costs up to 2 million, so £200,000. The maximum ERDF support available corresponds to 70% of total eligible project costs, so 3.5 million. Therefore, the applicant can receive up to 3.7 LCTT Challenge Fund grant. The applicant's own external match funding requirements are 20% of the first 2 million, so £400,000, and 30% of the excess, which is £900,000. The total applicant's match funding is therefore 1.3 million. So the sum of the 1.3 million from the applicant's match, £200,000 of Transport Scotland match funding support, and 3.5 million of ERDF corresponds to 100% of the total project costs, so £5 million. Match funding is one of the scored criteria used to evaluate the applications. The source of all applicants' own non-TS, non-EU match funding will need to be identified in your application, even if it's still pending approval. Proof that the match funding has been secured will be required before projects begin. For round 3 projects, it is expected that match funding will be approved, secured, and in place by February 2020. At application stage, applicants are only required to identify their own match funding and the amount they are bidding for, which will be a combination of ERDF and TS funds. There are a number of requirements around what can count towards match funding. The key requirement is that it's clean, meaning it cannot have any other outputs attached to it. European funding of any kind cannot be used as match funding, neither can private or corporate sector funding. Applicants would not be allowed to use funding from other Transport Scotland low carbon economy or active and sustainable travel pots as match funding, because this is essentially duplicating the Transport Scotland match funding. Some examples of these are Places for Everyone, Smarter Choices, Smarter Places, Switched On Towns and Cities, and the Charge Place Scotland funding pots. Though other wider Transport Scotland funds could be eligible, such as Cycling, Walking, Safer Streets, which is a fund distributed to local authorities through the local government settlement, is eligible. So if you're in doubt about match funding, please contact us or ask for a surgery appointment. In addition to summarising the funding sources described in the application form, applicants are requested to fill out and attach the LCTT Challenge Fund Financial Information Spreadsheet. The spreadsheet requires the applicant to describe in detail when and for what particular deliverables they envisage to incur expenditure, distinguish between staff and non-staff costs, describe in further detail match funding amounts and sources, outline a post-project 5-year forecast of expected costs and income or revenue to demonstrate sustainability of the project. Assessors will use this spreadsheet to gain essential information on the financial viability of your project. This is one of the scored criteria. Section 5 is divided into 4 subsections, each focusing on a project impact criteria. The first one is project rationale. This is an opportunity to concisely express how your project fits into the strategic aims of the LCT Challenge Fund, which are increase the number of journeys made by public transport, active travel and low carbon vehicles, support active travel hubs, facilities, routes to support cycling, walking and public transport use as an alternative to car, provide low carbon transport hubs and reliable low carbon refuelling services at strategic sites. This section will be scored and contribute to the overall score of the project. The second impact criteria concerns strategic fit. You should demonstrate which relevant national, regional and local plans and strategies have been considered. LCT Challenge Fund bids must be set in a context of existing active travel and low carbon transport initiatives proposed or underway. Applicants should also demonstrate links with relevant wider plans and priorities. Applicants are asked to address this in 2 parts. Firstly, applicants are required to demonstrate how their project proposal contributes towards key active travel and low carbon transport outcomes in the area. There are a couple of examples in the guidance for applicants of this. The second part is applicants are required to demonstrate and describe how their project proposal can help to deliver against wider local plans and priorities. This list is not exhaustive, however, project proposals may support the delivery of a number of local priorities around placemaking, local economic development, regeneration, social inclusion, employability, environment, health, and physical activity. This section will contribute to the overall score of the project. The third part of the 4 impact criteria is partnership working. It's envisaged that the lead applicants will work in conjunction with partners in order to develop, deliver, and sustain projects. Applicants need to describe any partnerships in place for the delivery of the project. If successful, applicants will be asked to provide evidence of partnership commitment, including, for example, a letter of support. So partnership working can be slightly different from actually having a partner co-delivering the project. Partnership working is about demonstrating you have reached out and engaged to other organisations, which will help during and after the project. The last impact criteria is community engagement. In order to encourage more people to make journeys by public transport, active travel, and or to support the uptake of low carbon vehicles, it's important to understand the perceived barriers to these and how they will be addressed through the project. The expectation is that applicants will engage with and involve the local communities in planning and development of project proposals. Applicants will therefore be asked to detail how a local community has been involved in deciding the project to be delivered and how it will meet their aspirations and how they will benefit from the outcomes. These elements will be scored and also linked with the deliverability and sustainability criteria of the project. Section 6 of the application form addresses ERDF specific criteria. The 3 ERDF horizontal themes are sustainable development, equal opportunities and non-discrimination, and equality between men and women. It's important for applicants to demonstrate that horizontal themes have been considered and integrated into project support through the LCTT Challenge Fund. Applicants are expected to describe how one or more of the horizontal themes contributes to their project. These will also be an essential part of monitoring and evaluation activities of projects that are funded. This section will also be scored as part of the assessment. The first horizontal theme, sustainable development. This is described by the European Commission as specific actions to take into account environmental protection requirements, resource efficiency, climate change mitigation and adaptation, disaster resilience, and risk prevention and management. Equal opportunities and non-discrimination. The aim of this horizontal theme is to prevent any discrimination based on sex, racial or ethnic origin, religion or belief, disability, age, or sexual orientation during the preparation and implementation of programs. Equality between men and women. This principle requires the programs to ensure that equality between men and women and the integration of gender perspectives are taken into account and promoted throughout the preparation and implementation of programs. For further information on the horizontal themes, please refer to section 10.2.1 of the Guidance for Applicants document. One more of the EIDF specific criteria is additionality. Applicants are asked to demonstrate added value to their proposal. As a guide, applicants are asked to address the following key areas. The difference between numbers using hubs and paths, baseline figures compared to the projected uplift with the ERDF intervention, anticipated additional outputs, increased number of participants, improvements to quality of activity or provision in the area, enhancing and complementing linked local, regional, national and EU policies and strategies, and existing or planned infrastructure, proposals for innovative activities or approaches, descriptions of improvements to the project locality, providing services currently unavailable to disadvantaged individuals to overcome their barriers to employment, education, or training, enabling projects to take place over a quicker time scale, thus accelerating the benefits to local community and population. The application must demonstrate additionality in terms of funding. Evidence must be provided to address the following: that all other sources of finances have been explored and exhausted, clear gaps in provision exist in terms of other funders, the principle of gap funding has been fully considered and applied, that the amount applied for is the minimum grant necessary to enable the project to proceed once all other sources of funding have been taken into account. Again, there's more information on this in the guidance for applicants, section 10.2.2. Deliverability is another ERDF specific criteria. All applicants are asked to demonstrate that the organisation has the ability to deliver the project within the timescales. The project will have a fairly significant in scale with a tight timeframes required for delivery. Therefore, it's important you can demonstrate that your organisation has the capacity to deliver the project. Ideally, your organisation should demonstrate from previous experience of delivering projects of a similar scale. As it's ERDF funding, the level of compliance and monitoring required is high. Demonstrating any good experience of this will help the application. You will also be required to describe your approach to project management and to outline the project's milestones, which will be used to measure progress. This section is also scored as part of the assessment process. The last ERDF specific criteria is sustainability. Successful project activities must be completed by September 2022, but there is an ERDF requirement for projects to run for at least 5 years beyond funding period. It is therefore important that applicants have appropriate strategies in place to identify how they will sustain their project. These should cover resourcing, maintenance, as well as opportunities to ensure its continued funding and development. Applicants will also be asked to detail their approach to outreach and engagement and longer-term plans to keep their partnerships and communities engaged with the project. Applicants must note that they must adhere to the national rules of eligibility of expenditure, particularly section 6.16, article 71, durability of operations, and notify EST and Transport Scotland of the possibility of sale or disposal of the project site within the funding period and beyond the 5 years after the project's complete. This section will also be scored. Section 7, delivering your project, is where applicants have the opportunity to demonstrate in more detail that the organisation has the governance structure and management tools in place and have considered the risks to the project's success and delivery. In support of this section, applicants are required to attach project plan, organisational governance and structure for the project, risk register describing risks associated with the project and how these risks will be managed. Section 7.1 provides a list of ERDF compliance requirements that projects have to meet. Applicants must confirm also that the lead organisation has the capacity to deal with the reporting requirements. This section and the supporting information will be scored in conjunction with the deliverability of the project. The next section is state aid, the European Commission term that refers to the form of public assistance which have the potential to distort competition and affect trade between member states of the European Union. An undertaking is defined as any entity, regardless of its legal status, which engaged placing goods or services on the market where there is a market in comparable goods and services. Organisations such as universities and colleges will be registered as undertakings where they use public funds to engage in activities beyond their public remit. Third sector organisations and charities will also be regarded as undertakings where they engage in any commercial activity. The definition of undertaking might be counterintuitive, so it's crucial that you follow the state aid guidance provided in the link that you can see at the bottom of this slide. If you are satisfied and can evidence the organisation is not an undertaking, then there is no need to assess the measure of state aid. However, if you believe that any organisation involved in the project may be an undertaking from a state aid perspective, then you must assess the presence of state aid at this level and, if necessary, ensure the award is made in compliance with the EC rules. If you're having any difficulty determining whether state aid rules apply to you, please contact the LCTT Challenge Fund team. Section 9 of the application form is monitoring and evaluation. ERDF funding requires all successful applicants to monitor and evaluate their project in terms of the outputs and outcomes that is intended to deliver. It is important that the applications and ultimately funded projects address the following areas: baseline data to be used, or how and when the baseline data will be gathered, and whether this is to be relied upon surveys, national data, or previous research. Please note that if successful at the funding award stage, applicants will be required to complete a detailed monitoring and evaluation framework for the project. A template of this will be provided by the Energy Saving Trust and will be needed to be completed prior to the commencement of the project. We also offer monitoring and evaluation workshops to go through the framework to help projects get started. The deadline for applications is Friday, the 25th of October 2019 at 4 p.m. For an application form, please email at lctt@est.org.uk with your completed expression of interest form. Expressions of interest forms can be downloaded from the website. If you require further information and would like to chat to EST and Transport Scotland, you can book a one-to-one surgery appointment. They're being held in Edinburgh, but we have teleconferencing facilities, so you don't actually have to attend in person. We're having 2 surgeries. One is on Tuesday, the 10th of September, and one on Wednesday, the 25th of September. So please email us and book a slot if you wish to talk to us in more detail. If you have any questions or require any further information, please either email us on lctt@est.org.uk or give us a phone, and we'll be happy to answer any questions and offer any help.